Jumipsua, Soksabai, Somswakum, Tengal Kenya. We are very happy to gather all of us here today for an important topic. We are conducting our event at AmCam Exchange, a very exciting new space that we recently opened to help improve ties between the United States and Cambodia. Today, I'm particularly delighted we can lend this space to our good work regionally for the multilateral partnerships that we have across ASEAN and today specifically across the Mekong. A special welcome to friends and colleagues, friends of the Mekong who are joining us on Facebook Live for our broadcast this morning. The real purpose of the event today is to preview an event taking place tomorrow at a higher level, and this is the Mekong-U.S. Partnership Senior Officials Meeting. And that will include representatives from the United States, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. And our senior officials meet once a year at this level to advance the partnership and prepare for a ministerial level meeting taking place a little bit later this year. So we're doing our part right here in Phnom Penh with representatives from the Mekong partners and also, joined by some really terrific experts in the field. The Mekong-U.S. partnership was launched in 2020. However, it is the successor to the very highly successful Lower Mekong Initiative, which goes back to 2010. I've been personally very proud of a direct connection with the LMI and the Mekong-U.S. partnership since the very beginning and can see the benefits, primarily for the objective that all 6 of us partners agree to try and achieve, and that is to promote stability, peace, prosperity, and sustainable development of the region through cooperation among the Mekong partner countries and the United States. We very much appreciate at this moment in time, the U.S.-Mekong partnership is being co-chaired by the United States and Cambodia. And today we have His Excellency Dr. Peek Sok Haim, advisor to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, and a colleague of his, Ms. Kim Kine, from the Ministry of Agriculture. Thank you to both of you for representing the Royal Government of Cambodia today. A special thanks to the Mekong representatives, my counterpart diplomats from missions here in Phnom Penh representing Thailand, Vietnam, and Myanmar. Laos is here with us in spirit today. Unfortunately, a conflict emerged late and unable to attend, but are with us in spirit and perhaps watching online. Today, we're going to discuss cooperation on the sustainable water use of the Mekong and other water resources in the region, natural resource management, and environmental protection. However, before we begin in earnest, I'd like to begin today with a special message from the new U.S. Special Envoy for Climate, my former boss, former Secretary of State, John Kerry, which will be brought to us by video on the screen momentarily.
Hello. Many of you know me as the former U.S. Secretary of State and now as President Biden's Envoy for Climate. I'm here today to talk to you about an issue of personal meaning to me, the health of one of the world's great rivers, the Mekong. I spent a fair amount of time on the Mekong years ago when I was in the United States Navy. I never imagined then that 50 years later I'd be working with all of you to conserve the river and its ecosystem. The health of the Mekong is inseparable from the prosperity and security of the countries of the Mekong region. As it has for millennia, the natural flow of the Mekong underpins regional food and energy security, economic growth, unique biodiversity, as well as human health. As part of our commitment to a secure, open, and prosperous Mekong region, the United States, together with Cambodia, Burma, Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam, launched the Mekong-U.S. Partnership to support the autonomy, economic independence, and sustainable growth of Mekong partner countries. Together, we are working to solve shared challenges, including one of the greatest challenges facing our world, the climate crisis. The people of the Mekong are seeing their lives and livelihoods threatened by the effects of the climate crisis. More frequent and intense drought and extreme weather events, devastating flooding, and rising sea levels. We need regional cooperation, science-based decision-making, and development planning that benefits all affected stakeholders in order to build climate resilience and support adaptation in the Mekong. That's what the Mekong-U.S. Partnership is doing. Through the partnership, Mekong countries and the United States work together to promote environmental protection, including sustainable water and natural resources conservation and management. The partnership supports programs that build climate resilience and support adaptation. The United States recognizes that the world must do more to make sure that those most affected by the climate crisis have the tools and resources to adapt. That's why at the recent Leaders Summit on Climate, President Biden announced a new international climate finance plan that doubles our overall pledge for international climate financing and triples our pledge for adaptation. I was especially glad to see Thailand and Vietnam participate in the summit and offer their vision for how the Mekong region can adapt to the threats of climate change. We need to enhance resilience and help vulnerable countries like those in the Mekong that are already dealing with the devastating impacts of climate. I'm proud of the work the Mekong-U.S. Partnership is doing to support climate resilience and to help the people of the Mekong, and I look forward to working with you in the days ahead to save the Mekong and the region.
Dedication and passion for these resource issues. So that was kind of exciting to have our discussion launched by him this morning in his new role as our climate envoy. At this moment, I'd like to invite our Mekong country representatives to join me, and we will begin our conversations, which will also tap the expertise of our conservation and environment experts from here in Cambodia. So, colleagues, if you could please join me. The United States has made environmental protection and climate global priorities. And I think we've seen that very much on display this year with the arrival of President Biden and the new administration. The United States has begun by pledging to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50 to 52% below 2005 levels by 2030. So over the next 2 years, more than cutting in half greenhouse gas emissions. We're also working very closely with our partners here in the region on sustainable management of shared water resources. Just a couple of examples for you. The US-funded Mekong Dam Monitor, which is operated by the Mekong River Commission, increases transparency on how upstream nations are controlling water supplies by providing real-time data publicly. I encourage all to take a look on the website that the Mekong Dam Monitor operates to see that real-time data. It's fascinating, it's very eye-opening and informative for policy decision makers. This cooperation sustains the agriculture and fisheries that provide food security for millions and for addressing droughts, floods, and the impacts of climate change. I dare say right here in this region, we all can see and feel the impacts of climate change. Tomorrow's senior official meeting of the U.S. Mekong Partnership will address the natural resource management pillar, as well as the partnership's three other pillars: economic connectivity, non-traditional security, and human capacity development. So now I'd like to invite friends from the Mekong region to offer their perspectives from their respective countries. First, we have Dr. Peek Sokheim, advisor to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Thank you again, Doctor, for joining us. I'd like to begin, if I could, by just asking what Cambodia's goals might be as the co-chair for the Mekong-U.S. partnership. Dr. Peek Sokheim, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Ambassador, for inviting us. The Mekong have been in my professional life for the last 40 years, so deep down here. So I'm glad to represent the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation, especially His Excellency Soken, the alternate sole member. Cambodia have been active with the start from 2009 with the alumni, and we see the progressive, the change and the success of this partnership for the last 11 years. And we are very glad to see that now we reach this high strategic level as a strategic partnership. And we have a lot of confidence and hope that we will be able, by working together, to triple or quadruple the success of this partnership. It is the right time when we now start to recover from COVID-19 pandemic. It's also a lesson learned for us to see that, yes, the world and the Mekong region is very fragile. The climate change, or the change made by human beings, like dams or water diversion, deforestation, and several other human activities, can cause a lot of damage. And as a co-chair of this Mekong-U.S. partnership, we are very proud, especially after the success of this USP policy dialogue that took place in May this year. And we also see a lot of improvement, and as we are going to discuss the draft plan of action for the next 3 years, 2021, 2023. We look through this plan. It is very comprehensive, cover 4 very important areas that will contribute to not only comprehensive recovery from pandemic, but also to build it even much better. So we will learn from it, and then maybe be looking at, yes, economic growth is important. Maybe we should also looking at green growth or other climate resilient pathway that will not only recover, but also build the life better, and not only for this generation and for the next generation. Cambodian Prime Minister Somdech Hun Sen at the recent Climate Change Ambition Summit already pledged Cambodian commitment to do whatever it takes to plan for carbon neutral development. So we may take a bit of time, but we are targeting that we look and learn from major countries, economy like US, United States, EU, and other countries in committing to to cut down the emission. And Cambodia also will do its part in not only about climate change adaptation, but also mitigation. We will need a lot of support, but we know that we have friends, we are among the partners, so that we will have all the technology that we can learn from or use from that. And we look forward to the discussion tomorrow, and hopefully we will finalize, hopefully, the plan of action. And we look forward to the adoption of it by August at the minister meeting. And that will give us opportunity to systematically implement what we plan to do for the next 3 years. So once again, we just want to emphasize our commitment and our high expectation from this strategic partnership for many years to come. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I appreciate that introduction. Ambassador Panyarak Pultap from Thailand is with us. And Ambassador, I think we can all agree in government, especially in democracies, that governments can't do it all. And I wonder if in Thailand you have a perspective on how you engage and integrate civil society and other experts when it comes to management of natural resources, especially the Mekong River. Ambassador?
Boundary impacts of water resource management include a multitude of issues for consideration, ranging from water security, energy security, fisheries, preservation of natural resources, impacts on the livelihood of riparian communities, dam management and navigation, to preservation of traditional way of life and local people and cultural heritage. Therefore, all authorities concerned, as well as civil society organizations, are key players in the management of Mekong water management. The Office of National Water Resources is Thailand's focal agency in formulating, coordinating, and implementing policies with regard to Mekong water resource management. While the Office of National Water Resources is working closely with all civil society organizations in this matter, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs also plays a supporting role in echoing the voice of CSOs through international fora, such as the Mekong River Commission and Mekong Sub-Regional Cooperation Frameworks, including the Mekong-US Partnership. Key concerns of CSOs that have been expressed to the Ministry include measures to increase the effectiveness of cooperation with Laos PDR and China in all aspects of water management, community empowerment in knowledge and information management, and preservation of environmentally sensitive areas. In Thailand, there are various channels whereby the civil society can engage in the international cooperation process. For example, at the local level, CSOs are part of networks established and managed by local administrative organs and play a key role in information exchange and policy action. At the national level, CSOs has joint government mechanisms such as the National Fisheries Commission and exchange information with government agencies, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on a regular basis. In relevant international fora, such as the Mekong River Commission, which still has a character of inter-government agency, the Office of Water Management Resource, in the capacity of Thailand National Mekong Committee, ensures that Thailand's stance reflects the opinions of CSOs and other key governmental agencies at the national level. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Panyarak. We will live up to that commitment today when we hear from representatives from civil society on these important issues. Ambassador Titlinong of Myanmar, Mingala Bakimya, glad to have you with us. Infrastructure development is a reality across the region, in my own country as well. As countries pursue the development of their infrastructure, how can they factor in the importance of environmental sustainability? Perhaps you have some perspectives. Ambassador, please.
Thank you very much. would like to express my sincere appreciation to Ambassador Patrick Murphy for organizing this timely event and inviting me to the discussion. We are gathering here ahead of the Mekong-US Partnership Senior Officials Meeting, which will be held virtually tomorrow. Regarding the question, infrastructure development is very requisite for all Mekong countries, including Myanmar, to achieve socio-economic growth. Infrastructure development is also one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and its SDG 9 aims to build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. I have also learned that Mekong-US Partnership has also funded the Sustainable Infrastructure Partnership in building Mekong capacity to manage the environmental change. Infrastructure development and environmental sustainability are two sides of a coin that go together in exerting our efforts for growth and prosperity of our countries. The success of infrastructure projects mainly depends on how we preserve our natural environment and the effective use of our natural resources in implementing such projects. Myanmar always supports the environmental sustainability and adheres to the good practices of conducting environmental and social impact assessments before undertaking the infrastructure projects in line with Myanmar Sustainable Development Plan. Moreover, knowledge sharing and capacity building are very crucial in our cooperation for the infrastructure development in the region. If our efforts on infrastructure development can better cope with the environmental sustainability, it also helps to mitigate the climate change and reduce the severe impacts of natural disasters. Taking this opportunity, I would like to encourage the businesses from US and our partner countries to do more investments in environmentally sustainable and resilient infrastructures in our countries, which are the main drivers for economic growth and development. I thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Vietnam is represented today by Deputy Ambassador Lai Xuan Chin. Deputy Ambassador, we have this great partnership, the United States and the Mekong countries, 6 countries, working very closely together in a terrific partnership. But it's also nested within a larger sub-region, ASEAN. I wonder if you might have a view on how we can better integrate the Mekong issues into the entire region and the workings of ASEAN. So please, Deputy Ambassador.
Thank you, Ambassador. Yes, I think this question is very interesting to me. You know that maybe about the cooperation among 5 countries along the Mekong rivers, the 2 ambassadors of Thai and Thailand and Myanmar has just mentioned a few already, and the representative from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have mentioned something already. So now about your question, maybe I would like to share, I would like to have some idea like this. In my country in the past and now at present, we always think of ASEAN is 10 countries, yes, but sometimes we also divide, sometimes in geographical, we also divide the continental ASEAN members and also the island ASEAN country members. So now for Mekong, I think it only relates to 5 countries in continental, yes, continental areas. So, but in fact, in ASEAN, you know that now ASEAN is very strong bloc now, and the consensus, consensus is one of the most imperative of ASEAN. And it means that everything should be added in 10, yes, not 10 minus x. So I understand your question, yes, but about how we better integrate Mekong issues into ASEAN discussions, I think I would like to mention in 3 scales. The first scale, the cooperation between Vietnam and Cambodia. The second one is the 5 ASEAN countries, I mean along the Mekong River. And the third one is the ASEAN members in between the continent and island countries. About the Vietnam-Cambodia cooperation, you know that Vietnam is situated in the lower Mekong region, and I also know about the Mekong Lower initiatives from the United States, and it is very helpful for Vietnam. And right, because I am now in Cambodia, so I would like to concentrate about the cooperation between the first scale between Cambodia and Vietnam. Now, we have a lot of things which whenever something happens in Cambodia, in the parts of Mekong River in Cambodia, it immediately affects Vietnam. So about recently, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you also know that recently, now Cambodia government is trying to make it clean, the Mekong River. So it is very important that for some Vietnamese overseas and also Cambodian people who are living along the Mekong River, and we would like to stress that the Vietnamese government strongly support the policy of development in Cambodia. But in order, only in a short time, in order to evacuate some households along the border, along the river, to the land, it is a little bit difficult for the Cambodian government and to fulfill it only in a short period. So I think that with the assistance from outside, especially from the United States, maybe will also help us in some projects like this. I only mentioned some spheres, very, very important burning questions for us right now. For example, if the United States could help us to help the Cambodian government and help Vietnam in some projects, how to rearrange for the people who are now living along the rivers to go to the land, to live in the land. I think it is very, very. I think it's very important for if we can receive the support and the assistance from the United States. I think it is very, very helpful and for us. And the second scale, in 5 countries, I mean the cooperation among 5 countries along the Mekong River. I think that in the Mekong Lower initiatives of the United States, you also mentioned something about how to help the people along the river already. So now we in Vietnam, we also closely follow in some agencies in Vietnam now. We also put it on the table and how to carry out with the Mekong Lower initiatives. And of course, I know that we also have some projects already. About the scales of 5 continental countries with the 5 island countries. I think that you know that in ASEAN now we have a lot of cooperations inside inside ASEAN. I know that along the Mekong River, you have a lot of projects about the infrastructure, about the culture, about the tourism, something like that. And I know that for some agencies in Vietnam, in Cambodia, we also add some programs in the list how to develop the cultural cooperation among countries in ASEAN. I think that for some projects related to the culture, I think that for 5 countries, for the regions along the Mekong region, Mekong River, we have a lot of different kinds of culture, and we can cooperate, and we can cooperate with each other, and we can build some places for tourism and something like that. And in the future, when the COVID-19 pandemic is over, maybe in ASEAN we can resume the those projects of cooperation in culture and even in agriculture and aqua, a lot of things to cooperate with each other. So I think that when we in ASEAN we have those meetings, and even the meetings of related to the weather changes, something like that. In those projects, we hope that we have the assistance from outside, and I think that for the United States, also from other partnership, such as Japan, such as Korea. I think that after the COVID-19, we will continue to get a lot of support from the outside, to bring it and to initiate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Ambassador. I know in my former role as the senior official for the United States to the ASEAN meetings, we always appreciated that ASEAN countries supported the Mekong Partnership, regardless of who served as chair. And for that reason, we appreciate that Brunei this year will be accommodating time and space for the Mekong-U.S. Partnership Ministerial that will take place in August. And of course, next year, Cambodia will be the chair and has a special interest in accommodating the partnership, but that will be very good for all of the 6 Mekong countries, including the United States, that work together. Speaking of Mekong countries, as noted, the Lao PDR could not be with us this morning, unfortunately, but is a founding member of both the a co-founding member of the Lower Mekong Initiative and the Mekong-U.S. Partnership, and will be represented at the senior official level tomorrow, and is very dedicated to the Mekong cooperation that we all have. Now, it's one thing to hear the commitments that governments have, which is important, but we rely very heavily on the expertise, the counsel, the critique that experts from civil society and NGOs can offer for us. So we think it would be great to hear these valuable perspectives and recommendations from experts this morning. First, if I could ask our friend Srabani Roy, who is the Country Director for Conservation International, a great partner, perhaps to discover some of the biodiversity and conservation efforts that CI has underway in the Mekong region. So, Srabani, please.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and it's a real pleasure for me to be here and represent Conservation International. This is a really fruitful conversation. Just for your benefit, if you don't know, Conservation International is a US-based NGO. We're based in Arlington, Virginia. We work in 30 countries across the globe. And here in the Mekong, we're based here in Phnom Penh, but we work with partners across the region. And our focus, just briefly, is really on 4 main areas. One is nature-based solutions and nature for climate solutions, and really focusing on the value of nature for addressing climate change and biodiversity conservation issues. We also work on sustainable landscapes and seascapes, so looking at really sustainable production and agriculture systems across large landscapes in the countries where we work. We also work on ocean conservation, not here so much in Cambodia, but in some of our other programs across the globe. And finally, looking at sustainable financing and science. We're a science-based organization, so all of the recommendations, policies, interventions that we do is really founded and based on science. And I would just say, the Mekong-U.S. partnership, and when I worked in previous roles with, I've been familiar and following LMI, it's a really great initiative and a really good way to bring cooperation and dialogue on these issues. The Mekong region, as you all know, is changing very rapidly. It's developing very quickly. There's a need for development, energy. But I think we also want to say that I think any of that has to be done with the mindfulness of, keeping biodiversity and conservation and natural-based solutions intact. The recent IPBES report and IPCC on climate change have really looked at the intersection between biodiversity conservation and climate change. So looking at ways in which to do sustainable infrastructure development with natural solutions in mind is really critical for both climate adaptation and mitigation, but also, as we especially know, around issues around zoonotic diseases, for example. We don't know yet for sure what the causal relationship is, but there is some evidence that destruction and deforestation that's happening, and especially in this region, which has some of the highest deforestation rates in the world, and the spillover, as humans get closer and closer to natural habitats, the spillover between animals, livestock, wildlife to human beings is getting more and more, the possibility of that is more acute. And that's what the science is saying that is possibly the cause of COVID-19, the SARS-CoV. So I think really keeping that in mind and looking at protection of our natural resources, restoration, and funding conservation is really, really important. CI did a paper last year looking at the economic cost of the zoonotic diseases. And, in the past, we used to say pollution prevention rather than cleanup after the fact. And I think what this evidence is showing is if we invest in even 30 billion a year, and that sounds like a lot, of investments in keeping natural resources and nature-based ecosystems intact now, it will lead to a 30 times less cost in the future in terms of preventing pandemics in the future. So I think, and we have a paper that was published in Science that actually does the analysis on that. So investing in natural-based solutions now can really help economies not to have to do the post-pandemic sort of cleanup, so to speak, after the fact, which is costing just the US alone $5.6 trillion in losses just from 2020 losses from COVID. So as a collective, and I think this is such an important issue that the region here in cooperation among the Mekong countries, looking at issues around biodiversity laws, deforestation, wildlife trade, that's a huge issue, of course, and there's a lot of cooperation already going on, but increasing that can help all of our economies here to hopefully not have to deal with exorbitant cost of post-pandemic cleanup, so to speak, later. So really encourage looking at nature-based solutions as a real way to move forward as economies grow.
Thank you very much, Sravani. Very helpful insights and a lot of expertise there, many, many years. Appreciated. Colleagues, I understand that some of our friends on Facebook may be having some difficulty hearing voices through masks. So I would ask that you bring the microphone very close. We have enough spacing to consider taking off the mask when you're speaking. It's up to you. But if you could at least speak loudly and closely. Tiek Sang is the country director for World Wildlife Fund and a longtime contributor to Solutions for the Mekong. And I understand that WWF has recently launched a program on the future of the Mekong. Perhaps you could share with us some insight on that. Please.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency Ambassadors, Patrick Murphy, Excellencies, Ambassador from the Mekong countries, all. Your Excellency, representative from government of Cambodia, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great honor for me to be in this kind of roundtable discussions to give some our thought on the U.S.-Mekong partnerships. Let me put a Cambodia context first. You know, Cambodia blessed with a rich biodiversity on land and in water, let alone Mekong River and the Tonle Sap Great Lake. Cambodia have more than 4,000 species type of mammals, birds, amphibian, fish, coral reef, plant. And the country has still discovered new species. Like last week, a camera trap revealed the new first ever recorded species, giant muntjac in Virachay National Parks. The Mekong River and the Great Lake are the most biodiverse and the highest fish density in the world. And they're also home to critically endangered species such as river dolphins, giant catfish, giant barbs, giant short-shelled turtle, giant stingray, and more than 70% of the Mekong fish species are a long distance and migratory species as well. Fish is the main protein for Cambodia. We consume 52.4 kilograms per person per year, compared to the world average consumption is 16.4 kilograms per person per year. Fish provides 76% of the total annual protein intake for a population of Cambodia. Cambodia has 72 protected areas and 3 large blocks of forests designated for biodiversity corridors, all together made up 7.3 million hectares, equivalent 41% of the country lands, legally designated as protected areas. So this number makes Cambodia one of the top countries in the world whose forest land are located for conservation. However, I would like to highlight some of the few challenges faced in the natural resource management in Cambodia and also in other Mekong countries as well. Protected area management needs significantly resources to operate effectively at the ground. A few specific examples can be described as the challenges are a lack of boots on the ground. The current ranger number for protected area is very small compared to the size of the PA. Ranger density as per protected area between 0.2 to 0.9 per 100 square kilometer, whereas the minimum recommended ranger density is 6 to 8 ranger per 100 square kilometer. In addition, the operational budget for PA management plan is extremely limited as well. PA are lacking of the management plan, patrolling plan, and strategy to engage with local communities, livelihood, education outreach, research, and monitoring. Most of the protected area lack of zoning plan, boundary demarcation. Therefore, PA are under threat of illegal activities and illegal land encroachment. Other threats to protected area, including a silo approach of institution and country, and the uncoordinated planning, decision-making, especially on the large-scale infrastructure development, including roads, dams, power transmission line, etc. Mekong River and the Greater Lake also face unprecedented and enormous challenges due to the upstream dam, water flow, sedimentation, overfishing, illegal fishing, mineral extraction, and flooded forest land encroachment. On top of this threat, the climate change have added insult to injury. The lower Mekong country ranked as the most vulnerable country in the effect of climate change. Flooded river bed erosion and water shortage are predicted to be worsened rapidly. In short, Mekong government, business, and investor have not fully taken the value of natural capital into their planning and decision making. Investment in the natural protection and restoration is the most country in the Mekong region is limited. So, I draw your attention how U.S. government support to address some of the key challenges in this regards. Over the past 2 decades, the U.S. government have allocated more than $2 billion in development assistance to bilaterally and regional initiatives in the Mekong region, helping address numerous aspects of social, environmental, economic development. During the past few years, WWF Cambodia has received direct or indirect funding support from a USAID to implement projects in the Eastern Plain landscapes, aiming to improve protected area management, address key driver of biodiversity loss, building meaningful partnerships with private sector, strengthening capacity of local authorities, and improve biodiversity data and monitoring systems. A couple, but most important project in the Eastern Plain landscape that WWF Cambodia has successfully implemented in the past with the USAID funding grant, such as supporting forests and biodiversity and the wildlife sanctuary support program. Just complete now. This project has delivered positive impact on biodiversity and governance. Without such important project at the ground, the protected area and the land use pattern could have been fragmented, and it could have looked differently at today, where forests are relatively contiguous and intact. So a big thank to the US government and other development partners as well. Our WWF Regional Mekong program is now being implemented, a new and exciting USAID-funded project called the Mekong for Future. It is a regional initiative, and it's implemented in 5 countries, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam, for the next 3 years. Aiming to improve natural resource governance across the Mekong country while strengthening the role of civil society to engage more in natural resource management and improving accountability, transparency, and provide right access to information. We believe that the Mekong for Future project is stepping in the right direction to support the good governance in natural resource in Cambodia and the country in the Mekong region. We would like to also provide Your Excellency with some of the recommendations for your meeting tomorrow. WWF is concerned about the unsustainable use of natural resources and the deterioration of ecosystems and the increase of visible effect of climate change and natural disasters, which are threatening sustainable development of Cambodia and the Mekong country. Poverty and widening inequality also remain a major challenge for the Mekong country to attain inclusive growth. WWF recommends to implement the nature-based solution now rather than later. The nature-based solutions are critical to support adaptation, particularly in terms of water security, water pollution, food security, human health, and disaster risk reduction. Forest carbon, blue carbons, and soil carbon are also part of the climate and nature-based solutions. WWF support for keeping Mekong River free-flowing. It is the most cost-efficient adaptation strategy for the Mekong countries, especially downstream country, Cambodia and Vietnam. Keeping Mekong free-flowing, securing food for millions. WWF see the important role of private sector and their capital investment into adaptation is critically needed. Public money alone cannot support the transformative effort needed at scale. Private sector is ready to invest if a bankable project, including the renewable energy such as solar and wind, are visible for solid proof of concept. WWF welcome the collective drive for quality growth, the only way to achieve inclusive and sustainable development in the long term, whereby the indicator of growth should not just hang solely on economic output, but also on achieving environmental sustainability and improve social well-being. Last but not least, WWF believes that all the Mekong countries and the development partners should work together to strengthen the decision support tools and information and use it to prioritize and coordinate decisions on any potential harmful impact project to the other countries. Trade-offs are inevitable. We just need to make sure we have the right data, scenario, and criteria to find the best option. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dick Sang from WWF. That insight is greatly appreciated, as are your good recommendations in Council for Governments. Ms. Sela Chia is the project director with the Wonders of the Mekong project. She's a real expert on Mekong species, in particular fish stock, and I can attest to that personally. We had a chance last year to work together to contribute some fish into the Mekong. I hope those fish are doing well. But let us know how things are going with fisheries in the Mekong, please. Ms. Sela Chia.
Good morning. Thank you so much, His Excellency, that give me opportunity to join the meeting today. And thank you and very good morning to Ambassador from different Mekong country and His Excellency Dr. Pachokam from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, representative from the Cambodia government, and also NGO partner, and also Ms. Kang Kim from the Fishery Administration, and also the Mr. Bandara from NGO Forum. And my name is Sayla. I'm project manager and coordinator for Wonder of the Mekong project. Wonder of the Mekong project is the project funded by the USAID since 2017. And we work in a partnership with Institute of FRD of the Fishery Administration, and also we collaborate with the University of Nevada in Reno, University of Utah State, University of Sydney, and other media like National Geographic, and also the local media in Cambodia. And the project focus on the applied research and capacity building, and also the develop of the communication material to share with different audience that are targeted in the Mekong region. So the project work on the So like you already like Strabani and also Mr. Sainti already discussed or told about the difficulty or challenging in the Mekong region, like the pollution or dam development on the Mekong mainstream or deforestation. But we also still have the good opportunity that we can work and then sell our Mekong. For example, in Cambodia, we have the civil society expanding and supporting develop in Cambodia, and government also support the community fishery, and we also have the community fish refuge, fish conservation area in the Mekong and also along the Tonle Sap River, and Cambodia government also announced a 10-year moratorium of the dam development on the Mekong mainstreaming. Is very important. One, that we have opportunity to develop more research to show that how very important of the Mekong River to everyone, like it for food, it for economic, it for the culture of the people living along the Mekong River, that start from China to Vietnam to Delta. It's very important one that we would like to show everyone how important to save to protect the Mekong River. And so based on the applied research, we document and monitor as the aquatic biodiversity and fishery by using both the local knowledge and also we use the new technology, for example, like bioacoustic and also biotelemetry to track the movement, the migration of the fish from Mekong to the Tonle Sap River and to other river in the region. And we collaborate with the Mekong River Commission and other partners to track water pollution and also the deforestation and fish population. And we also use the satellite imagery to assess land use pattern and Mekong water level and upstream dam operation and change in the fishing effort in the Mekong and also the Tonle Sap. And we work on the capacity building. So we support the student to continue the further education like master degree or PhD at the local university like Phnom Penh University, Royal Phnom Penh University, and we also offer some special training based on our research to the student, to the expert in the region to understand about how important of the fish conservation, how important about the or doing the statistic research or apply grant to the project, and also we support. We produce a lot of story and video and post on the Facebook page and also the other social media. So we engage more people to understand, to give more value to the Mekong River. So when people understand how important of the resource, how important of the economic that track from the Mekong River, it kind of the good information that the government and also the partner who live in the Mekong country or ASEAN can be use the data or information to make further consideration how to save Mekong, how to not destroy the Mekong, because Mekong is support life, support natural resource, support economic and livelihood of the people live in the area, and also they promote the culture. People live in different country, but we have the same like culture, fishing, agriculture along the Mekong. So this is very important, and thank you to the USAID that support the project up until now. And we would like to use the fund to dig more research, both the negative thing and the positive thing from the Mekong, like challenge or like the opportunity. What the result from the research we will use to share on the table for the manager or for the government to make a consideration to do further. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Selachia. Although we are in the middle of hearing from our civil society experts, we've just talked a lot about fisheries. We have a representative of the Fisheries Administration. Kim Kine, did you want to say a brief word? Perhaps we don't want to miss the opportunity to hear from your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Ambassador, His Excellency Ambassador among the 4 countries, and dear college, CI and WWS and NGO Forum and Mekong on the Wonder. So this is a good opportunity for me, representative of the Fishery Administration of Cambodia, and I'm happy to hear all of us talk, interest in the fishery management in Cambodia, and especially in the Mekong. As you know, Dr. Sinti already mentioned that the Cambodia, one of the countries have rich fishery resources, especially Mekong is one of the big Mekong River, beach river that connect in our country and make the Tonle Sap Great Lake connect with the Mekong, make our fishery resources rich. And our Cambodia, our proverb, there is fish, there is water, and there is rice. So fish and rice go together. So even our farmer do farmer, but they also do fishing. So this is their common life. So this natural resource of the fishery sector is very important. So Mekong is the river is very important to maintain. So I would like to express that at the government for the fishery agency, we have our mandate to conserve our fishery resources. So we would like to maintain our fishery resources remaining sustainability within the 600 million tons, 600,000 million tons per year. With it, we have to make sure that capture fishery from our natural water body, Mekong River, and other natural body is sustainability in this catch in order to fulfill the demand of our Cambodian people as well as for the Mekong country as well. As you know, Cambodian is like to eat fish more, as Dr. Sinti already mentioned. So that's why we have to conserve our resources. So we have a lot of strategy and guidelines, and we work with from the bottom up. We have at the community level. We have our how to say that this the co-management. We have the community fishery, which is which is 516 community fishery and fishery fuel. This is all multiple mechanism to protect our resources. So we had the conservation zone by the local people, community fishery identified by themselves, and also the government as well. So we commit together, and that forest and mangrove we had to protect and replanting and maintain, because the flooded forest and mangrove is very important to fish as the fish habitat. But however, even we protect our natural fishery natural resources, but we also develop our aquaculture. So promotion of aquaculture in the country in order to fulfill the demand, not only depend on the fish from the natural resources. So we make a strategy for aquaculture development in Cambodia that to increase at least 20% per year to fulfill for our people, because our people like to eat fish. And also the last pillar is regarding with the fishery value chain, so that we would like to maintain our fishery resources with the value of the contribution to our GDP, which is from 7 to 8%. So this is to maintain that the economic growth of our country. So the capacity building, the service with the fishery sector, and also with the policy support from for our sector. So for the U.S. Mekong U.S. partnership, we would like that this is very important, and we have our development partner help us a lot. So would like to highlight that the U.S. partnership can help us in any area that we are missing, especially with the to make sure that our fish resources is maintain sustainability. Not only, because as you know that the economic growth regarding with the development, so we would like to make sure that both equally economic growth and environmental protection. So this is very important. So thank you very much for Ambassador, U.S. Ambassador, and our partner and our member of the 5 countries in the Mekong that we usually work together, especially with the Mekong River Commission as well with the ASEAN. We have different approaches that we can work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kim Kain. Much appreciated. Mr. Vanra Tek is the executive director of the NGO Forum on Cambodia. Vanra, we've talked today about a lot of pressure on the Mekong through climate change, infrastructure development, unsustainable practices. But there's the issue of dams designed to perhaps meet some needs for development, but also put a lot of pressure on the Mekong. This is an issue you look at very closely, and perhaps you could share some perspectives today. Vanra, please.
Thank you very much, Excellency, Ambassador. Respect to the Mekong Ambassador and our colleague from the civil society and the international NGO. My name is Tek Vanra, Secretary Director of the NGO Forum. So NGO Forum is a membership NGO. Currently we have 92 national and international as our member. And the second level, we coordinate and facilitate 8 national NGO secretariat equal to 392 national and international who are come up together working to support sustainable development and natural resource management. And in our age of national secretariat, we have 3 secretariat is close to the topic today. The first one we call the NGO Environment and Climate Change. So we have 47 national and international who are active working on the climate change mitigation and adaptation in Cambodia and regions. And the second one we call the River Coalition in Cambodia. We have 57 national and international and local NGO who are close working with the community in order to ensure sustainable Mekong rivers. And the third one we call the Indigenous People and Forestry Network. We have 42 national and international. So regarding to the question from the ambassador, so in the River Coalition in Cambodia, we focus on the 4 themes. The first thing is awareness raising on the importance of the rivers to the livelihoods and to the people living. And the second is to provide capacity building to the civil society who are active working with the people. And the third one is networking And the last one is research and then a policy dialogue with the relevant stakeholder to ensure sustainability. And we work with the, we did many research, especially we encourage the people to do research by themselves. We call the participatory action research in order to have enough information at the ground to discuss. And through the research from the people, through the research from the university we work with, and then the civil society and the expert. So the one of the key challenge in the Mekong is the hydropower development, or we call the water infrastructure development, is also the one key of the challenge for the Mekong. In order to ensure of the sustainability, I think then the first step is the planning is very important to ensure the people participation, the meaningful of the participation of the people in the whole planning discussion. And the second is the transboundary impact, environmental impact assessment also is very important. Because if we ask to the private sector, they also use the EIA report and also the environmental management plan as a tool to address the concern all the stakeholders, especially for the people and then for the concern issue raised by. The question is the quality of the EIA and then the implementation of the environmental management plan is still a problem, because if we ask to the stakeholder, to project owner, so they lack of the resource to respond on the plan that they did in the environmental impact assessment report. And another key challenge is like the information disclosure. We observe and then we have many evidence from the research reports and from the Mekong people. So when the private sector, the hydropower owner, they do the EIAs, so I think that for the national language is still limited. So the people and the stakeholder at the different country, they could not access get full picture or information from the large scale development. That made them in some part they could not provide like concern and provide fully input to the report and then to the restoration plan or management plan of those hydropower dams. And the one in the operation, so we look at the private sector, there's still a lack of coordination in terms of provide the fully information from the perspective of the civil society and the people. We want to get in advance of the water information, like the 5 countries plus China and plus another partnership to ensure. So we should working more with the private sector, with the dam owner, hydropower development, to ensure that they have their common information system they provide in advance to the people who depend on the Mekong River. The information disclosure and information provided in advance, it is very helpful to the people. The first thing, they know everything in advance. They can prevent. They can prepare themselves in advance in order to reduce of the negative impact from. And the second, they can use this challenge to be an opportunity also in terms of the use of the water. So it is if possible, we would like to government and private sector to think about the system, and then should be like the organize or prepare one app in the smartphone to ensure every people just only click on the app and then they can get all information from the hydropower dam, from the plantation, from another large-scale project, water development or another development large-scale, and then the people they can use full of the information. They can also more active participate and then contribute to the sustainable development as a whole of the Mekong. And another one we observe we have already some existing mechanism that can the people they can more active participate. Like in Cambodia, we appreciate to the stakeholder. We have like forestry community, fishery community, community protected area, and then community-based ecotourism. The existing mechanism is very important in order to contribute to ensure of the Mekong sustainability. Even though we talk about the instant time have Ramsar Sai, and then in Kretches we have the dolphin conservation, preservation. It is connected. And then as Mr. Senti already mentioned, we want to see more like the value or indicator of the nature is also put into the cost-benefit analysis in the EA report. So if we do like this more like the transparency and then equality, so we know and then we can design in the right decision of even though the project development and then the reduce negative impact to the Mekong biodiversity and nature. And the third one, I think that it should be also more support to the civil society in the Mekong, and then the people in order to civil society and the people they have more active and participate and collaborate with the private sector and the government to working together to contribute of the sustainable Mekong development. And then the watershed, I think that regarding to the climate change, so the watershed management of the Mekong also very important, because if we can preserve the watershed of the Mekong is better, so we can get, I think that it also contributes much to the climate change. It is the way that we can do together from the government, from the private sector, and from the civil society. Yeah.
Vandara, thank you very much. And you have just about the last word. I think we've run out of time, friends. This has really been insightful, and I want to thank everyone for terrific presentations. I think all of us, safe to say, are invested in protecting and preserving our environment. Governments and experts alike have very important roles. I would offer that's not all. Citizens, including students and activists, have an equally important role. In fact, protecting our environment can be a noisy affair, and we need some noise to get government action, to get partnerships, because our environmental resources are under a lot of stress. We all know that and can appreciate that here in Phnom Penh. We live right along the Mekong, and we can see that the mighty Mekong has its good days and has its days where it struggles. This is vital. Our work is consequential. There are some 60 million people who derive their livelihoods directly on a daily basis from the Mekong. Arguably, there are hundreds of millions more people here in the region and around the world that gain from the Mekong. Cambodia is increasing its agricultural output, and some of that output finds its way to kitchens and tables in the United States, my country. So our nutrition benefits from the Mekong itself and the Tonle Sap and other water resources here in the region. So what we are doing affects all of our populations. We look forward to future discussions. This has really been terrific. We could talk all day. And we look to our senior officials tomorrow who will be addressing environmental sustainability, among other issues that they will be addressing. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. We've had representatives today from Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar. Here in Cambodia, of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Agriculture, Forests and Fisheries. We've also had representatives from Conservation International, World Wildlife Fund, WWF Cambodia, Wonders of the Mekong, and the NGO Forum on Cambodia. And many interested friends and colleagues and other experts who have been joining us live on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have found the conversation as valuable as we have here in the room. Let's continue our efforts to protect the Mekong for our current needs and for many generations to come. Akun Jarang. Thank you all.